Inside an auto service bay, mechanics push a heavy pickup truck forward while one walks atop a metal pit cover just as the floor opening becomes exposed beneath his feet. Walk entirely around open floor gaps instead of taking risky shortcuts across them. Guide vehicles from the solid concrete perimeter to maintain a firm stance. At a storefront cafe, a man steps inside from the wet street, slips on the slick floor, and loses his balance beside a heated metal dispenser. Wet floor surfaces can significantly reduce shoe traction in a single moment. When stable footing disappears near active heated equipment, balance can be lost immediately. A sudden fall may shift a person's weight directly against unsecured containers holding very hot liquids. This unexpected contact can tip an unstable container, releasing hazardous high-temperature contents. Mop damp entryways continuously during rainy weather. On a busy factory floor, an operator reaches deep inside heavy automated equipment just as the solid steel plates begin closing. Automated machinery operates with thousands of pounds of mechanical force and cannot detect a person positioned between its moving components. If a cycle begins unexpectedly, massive metal plates descend within a fraction of a second. This downward movement can catch anything located in the operating area, leaving very little time to pull back safely. Disconnect the main power source entirely before putting your hands into any danger zone. On an active concrete roof, a builder pushes a loaded wheelbarrow across wooden planks until the tire reaches a sudden solid stop, lifting him off balance. When strong forward momentum meets an immovable obstacle, the sudden stop transfers kinetic energy directly into the frame. The cart acts as a rigid lever pivoting on its trapped wheel. This mechanical shift forces the handles upward with considerable force. The rapid upward movement can quickly overpower a person's grip, causing the operator to lose balance and lifting them from their feet. Clear transport paths of hidden debris before moving materials. Maintain a steady walking pace to better manage sudden stops. Keep a flexible grip so the handles can be released during mechanical jams. High on a multi-story construction framework, a builder balances on narrow wooden supports just as the temporary structure begins to lose stability beneath his boots. Temporary wooden forms may not provide the structural stability needed to safely support heavy loads. When weakened timber pieces no longer provide adequate support under pressure, stable footing can disappear within a split second. Gravity immediately causes the person to move downward alongside the shifting materials. This rapid descent often leaves very few secure surfaces available for recovery. Anchor your safety harness directly to permanent concrete pillars before stepping outward. Stand strictly on fully secured metal platforms during daily tasks. Verifying structural stability before beginning work greatly reduces the risk of falls. Inside a large industrial bay, overhead repair work is underway when stable support suddenly disappears above the unforgiving concrete floor. Working far above ground level requires reliable stability and effective fall protection. When someone depends only on basic footing, a single slip can result in an uncontrolled fall. Without a properly secured harness, there is little to slow a rapid descent. The increasing momentum during the movement can result in a forceful landing upon reaching the ground. Anchor a sturdy lanyard to a solid structural beam before starting tasks. Use an elevated work platform instead of balancing on narrow edges. At an outdoor parcel depot, a heavy sack is emptied onto a conveyor just as a massive cargo truck reverses into the narrow unloading space. Heavy transport vehicles possess substantial rearward momentum and large blind spots. The narrow space between moving equipment and a stationary machine can quickly become an extremely dangerous pinch point. Drivers cannot always see individuals standing directly behind their cargo boxes. The weight of a reversing truck can easily leave a person with very limited room to move once space becomes restricted. Maintain strict safety boundaries around active reversing vehicles. Establish clear visual contact with drivers before entering designated unloading areas. Stay aware of your surroundings and protect your position during all loading and unloading tasks. Inside a quiet transit garage, repair work continues beneath a raised coach when the primary hydraulic lift suddenly fails and the massive vehicle begins to descend. Heavy vehicles require dependable mechanical stability whenever they are elevated. Hydraulic lifting equipment is designed to support substantial loads, but a malfunction or improper setup can allow the vehicle to move downward unexpectedly. When only one lifting system is supporting the entire weight, a sudden loss of support can quickly bring the chassis closer to the floor. Position thick. Solid steel jack stands securely beneath the axles before ever sliding under a raised vehicle. Keep yourself completely clear of the hazard area. At a high-rise site, a boom truck lifts a heavy metal tower section just as the immense weight gradually shifts the entire vehicle. Mobile lifting machines rely entirely on balanced weight distribution to remain stable during operation. When a suspended load exceeds the capacity of an extended boom, the cargo places excessive force on the equipment. Gravity continues pulling the heavy load downward, gradually shifting the machine's center of balance. This unexpected change can lift portions of the vehicle off the ground and cause the equipment to lose stability toward the rear. Calculate the exact weight of every suspended load before starting a lift. Extend outriggers fully onto solid level ground. Always operate heavy lifting equipment within the manufacturer's rated capacity. In a residential outdoor workspace, a barefoot man carrying tools steps onto the lid of a plastic bucket just as it suddenly collapses beneath him. Plastic buckets are designed to hold materials, not support the weight of a person. When someone stands on a bucket or its lid, the thin plastic can crack or collapse without warning. The sudden loss of support can cause an immediate loss of balance, increasing the chance of falling onto the hard ground or nearby objects. Use only solid ground or approved ladders as work platforms. Wear protective footwear for better stability, and keep loose buckets out of work areas to reduce the risk of falls and injuries. In a roadside equipment yard, workers attempt to slide a massive machine off a truck bed just as gravity begins to overcome the unbalanced load. Heavy equipment can become unstable if it is slid down a truck bed instead of being properly lifted. As the load shifts, its weight can quickly move beyond the balance point, making it difficult to control. Once this happens, the equipment may move unexpectedly, creating a serious hazard for anyone nearby. Rely on mechanical cranes or approved lifting equipment to unload heavy machinery safely from elevated truck beds. Park transport vehicles on firm, level ground before unloading operations begin. Establish and maintain a clearly marked exclusion zone around the unloading area to reduce unnecessary exposure. On a dim industrial street, a pedestrian walks directly behind a massive reversing transport vehicle just as the moving steel frame approaches unnoticed from behind. Large transport vehicles have extensive rear blind spots that extend far beyond the view provided by standard mirrors. During reversing operations, drivers often have very limited visibility behind the vehicle. The weight and momentum of heavy equipment also make it difficult to stop immediately once movement begins. A person walking behind a reversing truck may remain completely hidden from the driver until there is no safe opportunity to avoid a collision. Always establish direct visual contact with vehicle operators before crossing active transport lanes. Inside a warehouse, a team packs a wooden crate just as a nearby crane load suddenly swings sideways. Suspended heavy loads can behave like large pendulums whenever tension or balance changes unexpectedly. Once a lifted object begins to swing, its momentum may carry it across the work area with considerable force. The narrowing space between moving cargo and fixed structures creates a dangerous pinch point. Anyone positioned within this confined space may have very little opportunity to move clear before the load passes nearby. Guide suspended materials using approved taglines or sturdy guiding poles. Clear the work zone before lifting begins, and remain alert to overhead moving equipment throughout operations. Inside a massive hardware warehouse, a rushing handler hurries down the main aisle, balancing a long ladder on his shoulder before suddenly losing his footing. Moving quickly while carrying oversized materials can significantly affect your natural center of gravity. Rapid movement allows long objects to shift unexpectedly, turning even a minor stumble into a serious loss of balance. Human reflexes often cannot respond quickly enough to recover from these sudden weight changes. The carried load continues moving forward, increasing the force transferred during contact with the hard concrete surface. Transport oversized equipment at a steady walking pace. Grip long materials securely with both hands whenever practical. Stay focused on the travel path ahead and keep walkways clear to improve workplace safety. At a roadside demolition site, an operator drives a heavy loader into the main structural columns just as the building begins to lose stability. Removing critical structural supports allows the upper sections to shift downward under their own weight. Equipment positioned directly beneath or beside these weakened areas can quickly become exposed to falling concrete and debris. As the structure continues to settle, the loader may remain within the primary hazard zone, leaving the operator with little time to move to a safer location. Safe demolition depends on careful planning, controlled dismantling, and maintaining safe working distances. Demolish structures from the highest sections downward and use equipment that allows operators to work from a safe distance whenever practical. At a narrow warehouse entrance, a reversing truck closes the gap beside a rigid brick wall, turning the guiding position into a rapidly tightening pinch point. Heavy transport vehicles have significant rearward momentum and large blind spots. The narrowing space between a moving vehicle and a fixed structure quickly becomes a dangerous pinch point. Drivers relying mainly on mirrors may not see someone positioned beside or behind the vehicle. Once the truck is reversing, its weight greatly reduces the chance of escaping safely. Maintain continuous visual communication with vehicle operators during reversing maneuvers. Stand clear of the vehicle's travel path. Establish designated safe areas away from walls. On a narrow residential street, an excavator breaks through the pavement when a massive surge of dark mud suddenly erupts from beneath the ground. Underground utility lines can contain significant pressure hidden beneath roads and concrete surfaces. When excavation equipment accidentally damages a buried pipe, the stored pressure may be released instantly. This sudden release can force water, mud, and debris into the surrounding area with great force. The resulting ground disturbance can also reduce the stability of the work area and create additional hazards. Locate underground utility lines before excavation. Across an active traffic lane, a heavy truck drives forward and strikes an extended boom, causing the elevated work platform to shift suddenly. Extending equipment over public roadways creates a significant collision hazard when adequate clearance is not maintained. Large vehicles require sufficient vertical space to pass safely beneath elevated machinery. If a moving truck contacts a stationary hydraulic boom, the impact force transfers rapidly through the equipment. This sudden movement can shake the elevated work platform, making it difficult for the occupant to maintain a stable footing. Redirect traffic away from overhead work, verify vertical clearance before extending equipment, and wear a secured safety harness throughout elevated work activities. At a residential paving site, a builder tends a spinning cement mixer before his loose winter jacket becomes caught by the rotating drum, causing him to lose his balance. Rotating machinery generates a powerful mechanical force capable of catching loose clothing with little warning. Once fabric becomes entangled in a moving component, the motor continues pulling the material inward almost immediately. Human strength alone cannot overcome the continuous force of powered equipment. This movement can draw a person dangerously close to the rotating machinery, creating a serious entanglement hazard. Secure loose or baggy clothing close to your body whenever working around rotating machinery. Shut down and isolate all power sources before clearing hardened cement or performing maintenance on the equipment. In an open green field, a digger drops a massive boulder into a compact dumper just as the heavy payload causes the small machine to become unstable. Compact transport machines depend on staying within their rated weight capacity to remain stable during operation. Placing an oversized, concentrated load into the rear bed can quickly shift the machine's center of gravity beyond its stable operating range. This sudden change transfers additional force toward the rear of the vehicle, reducing stability at the front. Match cargo size carefully to the rated capacity of your equipment. Decline oversized loads that could compromise machine stability. Whenever it is safe and appropriate to do so, remain outside the immediate loading area until the material has been placed securely. Outside a busy repair shop, a man inflates a heavy machinery tire before the built-up air pressure suddenly causes the tire assembly to release its stored energy. Large industrial tires store a significant amount of compressed air energy during inflation. If pressure exceeds the safe operating limits of the tire or wheel assembly, the components may release that stored energy without warning. The sudden release of this stored energy generates an extremely powerful burst of force, capable of propelling nearby debris throughout the immediate area. Place large wheels inside an approved tire safety cage whenever inflating them. Stand well clear of the potential release area while adding air pressure. In a narrow residential alley, a mason presses a yellow lever against a freshly built brick barrier just as the entire heavy structure begins to lose stability. Fresh mortar provides very little structural strength until it has fully cured. When heavy blocks are stacked too high on uncured joints, the wall can become unstable. Even a small amount of additional movement may weaken the fresh bond and trigger a rapid loss of stability. The connected masonry can move downward together as one large section, creating a serious workplace hazard for anyone standing nearby. Support fresh masonry with sturdy wooden braces throughout the curing process. Inside an excavated dirt trench, a working team cuts into a solid structure just as trapped liquid suddenly surges upward with considerable force. Pressurized underground systems can store significant amounts of energy beneath the surface. When tools accidentally breach the outer wall of a pressurized line, the contained liquid may escape immediately. This rapid release creates a powerful surge within the confined trench environment. The volume and force of the escaping liquid can quickly overwhelm a stable footing and make movement extremely difficult. Verify that all internal pressure has been safely relieved before beginning work on underground systems. Follow established confined space and excavation safety procedures at every stage of the operation. Inside a busy kitchen, a man scrolls through his mobile device while stepping across wet floor tiles before suddenly losing his footing. Liquid spills can greatly reduce the friction between footwear and smooth flooring. When someone walks across a slippery surface, forward momentum may continue while their feet lose traction. This unexpected movement can quickly disrupt natural balance and make recovery difficult. Human reflexes often cannot respond fast enough to fully regain stability during a sudden slip. Block wet areas with bright warning signs or barricades immediately after spills occur. Store personal mobile devices away while walking through active workspaces to minimize distractions. Wear slip-resistant footwear designed for wet environments. Within a busy storage bay, a steel hammer misses the wooden pallet and continues through its full swing path, striking the lower leg instead. Swinging heavy hand tools requires steady control and accurate targeting. When a hammer or mallet misses the intended surface, the stored kinetic energy continues along its natural path. The force of the swing does not disappear simply because the target was missed. Any body part positioned within that path can receive the full movement of the tool. Secure materials firmly before beginning any demolition work with hand tools. Maintain a wide, balanced stance to keep your legs and feet outside the natural swing path. High along a steep dirt path, a heavy transit mixer shifts its weight just as the fragile edge gives way, sending it down the steep ravine. Unstable earthen edges often lack the strength needed to support heavy, concentrated vehicle loads. When tons of liquid concrete place excessive pressure on a soft shoulder, the ground can give way unexpectedly. This sudden loss of support removes the stable foundation beneath the vehicle almost instantly. Gravity then pulls the mixer down the slope, causing the machine to continue moving downhill as it descends. Evaluate unpaved surfaces carefully to confirm they can safely support heavy equipment before parking or operating. Establish clear safety boundaries well away from steep embankments and unstable ground. Balancing on an unfinished house frame, a builder kneels onto an unfastened metal sheet just as the slick panels slide completely off the slanted roof. Placing body weight on unsecured roofing materials creates an extremely unstable working surface. Corrugated metal panels provide very little natural grip against smooth supporting beams when they have not yet been fastened into place. As soon as someone applies weight to a loose panel, gravity can cause the sheet to slide down the roof. The moving metal quickly becomes an uncontrolled surface, carrying the worker toward the roof edge. Secure every roofing panel permanently before applying body weight to the surface. Connect an approved fall protection harness to a designated anchor point throughout elevated roofing work. Inside an active foundry, a suspended crane bucket unexpectedly tilts forward, releasing a large volume of high-temperature material onto the steel platform below. Large overhead containers carrying high-temperature material require continuous stability throughout every lifting operation. If a suspended vessel loses its balance, the hot contents may spread unexpectedly. Once the high-temperature material reaches a solid surface, it can move rapidly across the surrounding area while producing intense heat. Secure lifting mechanisms with secondary safety latches to reduce the risk of unexpected tipping. Establish and enforce strict exclusion zones beneath every suspended high-temperature load. Follow approved foundry lifting procedures and wear appropriate heat-resistant protective equipment throughout all operations to improve workplace safety. To keep learning from these important workplace safety lessons, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay aware, stay safe.